I've abused a lot of shoes, but these might have it the worst. We started by grabbing one whole ton of concrete, 2,000 pounds total. It was not easy to move. Then we grabbed a piece of plywood and started measuring out the squares that we were going to use to make the mold for this concrete prison. We were going to use brackets to hold everything together, but we didn't have any. Thankfully, I have a degree in janky engineering, so we just used masking tape instead. Then we used a bunch of hot glue and a questionable method of application to seal all the edges. The whole idea here was to get a pair of shoes in the center of this big block of concrete. So to do that, we took one of the shoe boxes that the shoes come in and glued it to the bottom as kind of an anchor, and then glued the shoes to the top of that. We did this because this is only my second time working with concrete, and I wasn't sure if the shoes would just float to the top if we threw them in a big block of wet concrete. I added a whole bunch of tape around the whole box for some extra support, and then we started mixing the concrete. We tried using an actual concrete mixer, but that wasn't really working, so we resorted to a more unconventional method. No soft hands over here, brother. We used about 6 bags or 500 pounds of concrete to fill this box and seal this pair of from the concretes in concrete. Let me know what you think we're gonna do with it, though. The biggest moment of my career, and I could not have fumbled harder. It all started at SneakerCon Fort Lauderdale, one of the biggest sneaker conventions in the world. We do it every year. It's one of the only in-person events we do, and it's always a good time. And for the second year in a row now, we had a Destroy Your Nikes wall where people can come up, give us their Nikes, destroy them in return for a free pair of Kizzos. Last year, a kid gave us a pair of Trophy Room 1s, which was just crazy, but I wanted to one-up that this year, so I went out and bought a real pair of Red Octobers, $4,200 of my own money. Now, there were 3 major parts to this plan. Number 1, I wanted to keep these a secret, so I didn't tell anyone about them until the day before. Number 2, I wanted specifically slime green paint because that was part of my vision. And number 3, probably the most important, get the shot. The moment came, but the lights might have been too bright because this is what happened.
I need a good angle.
I need a good angle, Jake says. What an idiot. I accidentally pressed the volume button when I went to adjust the angle, and I stopped my recording. Thankfully, there was a million people recording, so I got plenty of angles, but I still can't believe I fumbled that bad. POV, you're driving a car that's sitting on hockey pucks and washers.
Ooh, scrapey. Oh, rubbing everywhere. Ooh. Oh, now. I didn't even test if the brakes work yet. Brakes work. Bumpy.
So far, so good.
Don't stall on me. Put it in park. At lights, I have to sit in park with my foot fluttering the gas or else it'll stall. No. Oh! Scrape. Park. Nice type R. Looks stock though. Park. What are you beeping at?
Oh boy.
Oh. It feels crazy. It really does.
I kind of like it. It's kind of like a ride.
Oh my God.
What am I even hitting?
That was kind of fun. Scraping everything.
That thing is sick.
Big old bird.
Alright, well, surprisingly, I made it home. Not that bad. Really not that bad. It's kind of fun. So, 10 out of 10. This year's SneakerCon was by far the biggest and the best SneakerCon we've ever done. This year, the booth had 4 things going on. Last year, we only had 3, but the main attraction, of course, is the dip dye. Customers come up to the booth and they can take the shoes as they are, or they can choose to have them dyed any color or colors they want. I also got to do some really cool dyes. I dyed this pair Monster Green to match Monster Miyagi's beard. Super cool, dude. And I even got to give Sharif O'Neal a birthday pair. The second thing we had going on at the booth was Walsh Tapes, my personal barber and also friend. He was there giving out free haircuts the whole day. We had Stack 25 going on at the same time, and that for some reason was super easy this day. We had, I think, 15 winners. And last, but certainly not least, we had our famous or infamous, it depends which side you're on, Destroy Your Nikes wall, where people can come up, give us their Nikes, destroy them for a free pair of Kizzos. And the cherry on top of this attraction is this pair of authentic, yes, authenticated by Shimmy the Goat themselves, pair of Red Octobers. I got to do what I do best, to destroy some shoes, and I couldn't have been happier. I've been waiting to do this for years, so thank you all for your support in making this such an amazing event. Next year is going to be even better, though. It's been over 10,000 miles and almost a year since I last changed the oil on the Lexus. And it couldn't have gone worse. I first tried to take the easy way out by using the ramps, but the car was just too low even with the plywood and bricks I was using. But I finally got it up on some jacks and was able to drain the oil. Everything was going smoothly until I realized my pan had a big hole in it and was leaking oil everywhere, but that's nothing some cardboard can't fix. And if you're from the EPA and watching this, that was a prop of some sort. Anyway, I put a new crush washer on, threw the plug back in, and figured the worst is behind me. So I moved on to the oil filter and I was able to get that out relatively cleanly, but you know, never perfect. So I, of course, threw a new filter in there, threw a new O-ring around the housing and threw everything back in. That's when this happened, which was just the cherry on top of the whole day. But I guess it's my fault for leaving dirty oil underneath where I'm working. I filled it up with new oil and topped off my windshield wiper fluid, making sure not to spill it anywhere. But the real question is, how bad is 10,000 mile oil? So I cut open my oil filter to check it, and it was perfectly clean. So you gotta love Lexus. The top 5 jankiest things I've done to the BMW. Number 5 is the rattle can jawbreaker paint job that I did. I think it's safe to say that any paint job done with rattle cans could be considered janky, but the uniqueness and cool factor alone on this one makes it somewhat okay. Number 4 is the under $100 homemade exhaust that I welded together horribly and slapped on the car. The welds are disgusting and it doesn't sound good at all, but from the outside it doesn't look half bad, and it doesn't sound that bad considering it's a $100 homemade exhaust. Number 3, my sunroof was leaking every time it rained, so I sealed it with silicone. Why not just use weather stripping? Well, because this is easier. And it doesn't open and looks like crap because I didn't clean it. But hey, at least it doesn't leak now. Number 2, this back window is held up with Gorilla Glue. Long story short, I couldn't get into the car. I had to break this window to get into it, and then instead of just replacing the glass, I bought a whole new door and the glass. But the actuator in this door was broken, so instead of fixing it, I just glued the window where it is because it didn't work in the first place. And number 1 by a mile is the hockey pucks and washers that I have it sitting on. And while it might be janky and ride terribly, it actually worked pretty well. All that work and it's still not even low. Low was never the goal. I wanted this just kind of OEM plus fitment, and it's still not even close to perfect, but it's a lot better than it was, and it's good considering this was free. So give me other janky ideas that I could do to this thing. I'm slamming my car on a hockey pucks, and spoiler alert, none of it went to plan. I started by removing all the pieces of the suspension, and by that I mean I tried to remove all the pieces of the suspension. The driver's side strut would not come out, so I had the bright idea to just cut the spring while it was still on the strut. Bad idea. The cutting wheel exploded, but thankfully I'm a genius at being an idiot, so I knew that would happen, and I got myself out of the way. The passenger strut came out in like 10 minutes, and I took that apart kinda the right way. Then I started on the rears, and they were surprisingly easy. I have nightmares about divorced suspensions because of the Lexus, but this one was pretty smooth. I accidentally cut the rear spring way too short, and I'm sure nobody saw that coming. And I also ruined the front spring, but the solution to that is hockey pucks and washers. The rear struts got 2 hockey pucks and about 10 washers each, and the front struts only got 1 hockey puck. Now, it may seem like this was quick and easy and all went smooth, but I didn't show you the hundreds of times that I jacked the car up and down to test the fitment. It was annoying. The front driver's side wheel was the only one that sat perfectly the first time. Everyone else needed adjustment, especially the front passenger. And now the fitment looks absolutely perfect, but the ride, meh.
I don't want to touch it. I'm scared. Wait, Megan, I want to do it. Oh, wait, is this what we're supposed to unwrap? I feel like we're not supposed to be doing this right now. It is. Oh, shoot. Shoot.
No way.
These are fire. Look at this whole. Yeah, wait, these are kind of. Hey! What size are you? Okay, we're like good at TikTok. I'm giving it to my friend Ryan. He's gonna love them. Thanks, guys.
What do I do?
I don't know.
I think it's those guys.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
They're nice.
It's raining, I'm hungover, this thing is running on 3 of its 6 cylinders, and we're gonna try to fix that. It's a little wet. Even though it's only cylinders 1, 3, and 5, I got a whole set of ignition coils because they look like they need replacement. It's raining harder, thanks. Wow, this is so fun. I'm having the time of my life. All right, well, they're all in and a little wet. All right, well, it's nice to be a little dry. I deserve a reward. All right, so I'm gonna clear all these codes. Let's start her up. Uh-oh. Do you see it shaking? It is not happy still. Damn it. Boy. Oh, it's on my shoes. So I think it's safe to chalk this one up as a fail. Another $200 down the drain. And this thing still runs like shit. But since my plan has changed and I plan on keeping this thing for a little bit, I'm gonna work a little harder to actually fix it. So stay tuned to watch me waste more money. Until next time. Social media is ruined. It sucks now. And I can already see the put the fries in the bag comments coming, but if you haven't noticed, those are in almost every creator's comments right now. And that's because we're all struggling. Every single content creator friend that I've spoken to has the same story. Views are just low. And they have been for a while. And it's not because your favorite content creator is getting lazy or making worse content or they fell off. It's because social media sucks now. It's basically pay to play. Almost everything you see now is an advertisement, even if you don't know it is. I mean, TikTok has just become QVC. You can't escape the TikTok shop ads now. And those videos are replacing what would have been entertaining ones. And that means that instead of the views going to deserving content creators, they're just going to ads. And I don't want this to seem like a woe is me, I'm complaining about my life post, because I chose this life. This is exactly what I wanted, and I will adapt and overcome. But it just sucks because social media used to be fun, and now it's just all advertisements, even if you don't know it's an advertisement, which is ironic because this is an advertisement for this bag that we're dropping this month. We spent 3 days and $1,000 building this custom treasure chest for Kai Cenat, and it contains a top secret sample that we've never shown anybody before, a one-of-one piece. And the scariest part is he might not even open it. We saw that Kai was doing a Christmas PO unboxing, so we got right to work, and while I was building the frame, Zuki was tracing and cutting all the AMP logos. After that, we got this really detailed and decorative molding from Home Depot. We cut it to size and added it to the top, the bottom, and the sides just to make it look a little nicer, bring everything together. Then it was time to paint it. We got this custom color made. We like to call it blurple because you can't really tell if it's blue or purple. This is our flagship color, and once that was dry, I started adding hardware. Hinges, handles, locks, chains, all types of stuff. I spray painted the inside of the box coral, and I spray painted all the little decorative pieces gold to match the rest of the hardware. And then all that was left was the little tedious work, like painting all the edges and fixing all the small details, adding all these little button things to the side. Zuki had to hand paint all the logos. This took us honestly the longest. Once they were dry, we had to add them to the chest, but we weren't really sure how to do that, so we just drove a giant screw through it and cut the excess off with a grinder. And then finally came the time to fill it. We gave him a black duffel bag, a pair of shoes, and this top secret duffel bag we've never shown anybody. And the only way you'll get to see it is if Kai actually opens this thing. The final step was to chain this thing closed, so we used some chains, locks, and the anchors that I previously put on the box. Then we bubble wrapped the hell out of it and sent it on its way. Hopefully it makes it there safely and Kai actually wants to open it. Let me know who's excited to see this thing on stream. We made a giant CD out of about 500 CDs, and we're sending it to somebody who has no idea that it's coming. We started by tracing out a circle onto a piece of wood, and I just figured out what jigs are, so we made this jig to kind of cut the circle out, but it didn't really work all that well, and we just ended up freestyling it. However, we're definitely getting better at this stuff because this is by far the most circular circle we've ever cut out of anything. We laid down some base coats of paint just because why not, and then it was time to start laying down the CDs. We started with the edge, and that was because for the edge, we had to cut all the CDs in half to sit flushly with the edge so that there was no gaps. We wanted 0 gaps anywhere. And that's the reason that we ended up going through about 500 CDs total. Then we found this circular piece of plastic. We painted a black border around it and then glued it to the center. And this is kind of what brought everything together. Then we attached a wire to the back just in case the person we're sending it to wanted to hang it. And voila, the giant CD was done. I think it came out perfect, and just like the CDs on our Just Suits, there is no hidden meaning here. But what do you think, and who do you think we're sending this to? Hint is, like us, this isn't the first CD they'll be receiving. Y'all bullied me and my bag into the ground the other day. But that's okay, because now I have a new bag, and I'm here to get my get back. And I've decided that I'm not going to stop making these bags until the top comment on one of these videos is positive, which might be actually impossible. Now, I'm no stranger to these comments. It's kind of what I built my career off of, but for some reason, these ones got to me. But to be honest, I kind of needed it because I haven't been ripped to shreds like that in a long time. I work best with a chip on my shoulder. I need some motivation. And you were right, that last bag sucked. I half-assed it. So for this bag, I bumped my effort up a little bit to like 75%ish. I took my time on this one. I made sure the stencils were perfect. The masking tape was perfect, so it would come out clean, and it did. So thank you for bullying me because it worked. By the way, if you buy one of these bags and your box comes with paint on it, sorry, that was me. All the extra time I spent on this bag was well worth it because not a single one of these stencils bled. I couldn't believe it. Now, I don't want to jump the gun here and give myself a premature W, but I think this bag is clean. But only only you can decide that. So let me know, did I redeem myself or do I need to go to 100% maximum effort? How could you hate clear taillights? I don't understand. People either love them or hate them. There's no in between. And I happen to be on the side that loves them. So I wanted to DIY my own. Did I do it the right way, like YouTube said, to take off the bumper, take out the whole assembly, cut it open with a Dremel, silicone it, and then reinstall everything? No, I decided to hit it with a hammer. And it was working fine, but if you thought that I was gonna make it through this without messing something up, you were wrong. I forgot how delicate chrome is. I ruined a piece of it with some alcohol, and then I was taping up to fix that, and the tape ripped up the chrome as well. But easy fix, all I had to do was spray some silver metallic spray paint, and that was it. The final step is to throw the lens on. You could leave it off, but you'd be a dummy if you did. There were some gaps at the edges of the lens, so I used some heat to get it to conform a little bit better, because that gap would have created a problem down the line, I believe. Now, I might have went a little bit overboard with the silicone, but I just wanted to make sure that these things were watertight. And do I care if it looks a little messy? No, I'm a hack in the first place. But just look at the before and after. You can't tell me that's not better. And if I see anyone say rice, first of all, you don't know what rice means. Second of all, I love rice, but let me know what you think about them. I custom painted my E46 to look like a jawbreaker. Here's how I did it and how much it cost. First, of course, is the prep work, so I had to sand down the whole car, wash it all off, and then tape it up. That took me about a day and a half. And that is way longer than it should have taken me, but this is the first time I've done something like this, so it took me a little extra time. Once it was all prepped, I had to start painting. I chose rattle cans for this job, and a lot of people questioned that decision. But there's a few different reasons why I made it. Number one being I've always wanted to rattle can a car. Number two being I've always wanted a car that I didn't really have to care about and could do fun, janky stuff with. Number three is money. There's a lot of different colors in this paint job if you didn't notice, and if I had went out and bought all the professional grade stuff, it probably would have cost 3 times the amount. And the last reason being, I know my way around a rattle can really well. I've used them my entire career, I'm confident with them, and I kind of wanted to test myself to see if I could get a half-decent paint job done with them. So in total, I went through about 32 cans, and that's including the 12 cans of 2K Clear that I burned through, which in the end didn't even seem to be enough. I wish I had more cans to do one more coat with, but for my first time using it, it came out pretty good. So with everything totaled up, I was all in for about $600, which sounds like a lot for a rattle can paint job, but that's because I have 8 different colors in here. Let me know how I did and what the next paint job should be.
Don't drop him. Don't.
You guys want to try?
Oh, these are Kizzos?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
16, 17,
Fix it, bro. Fix it.
18.
I got you.
Hey.
Got him.
Don't drop him. Don't drop him. Don't. You good? Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm chilling. That's like basketball. Yeah! No, that was
Ah, the wind.
That was
No,
the
you're
wind.
good. You can restart. There it is.
It's like straight in your phone. It's so easy.
Oh. Yep.
Nice.
2 more. Oh! It replaced it. Oh!
You said 10.5 and 10? All right, so, because that was a great effort, we'll give you guys both a pair.
Kizzo is better than Nike. Fuck Nike.
Yeah! All right, hey, good job, guys.
Thank you, bro.
Appreciate y'all.
Have a good one, bro.
That can't be good. I'm gonna sound real stupid when I say this, but I've never compression tested this thing. But today, we find out if the motor's blown. That looks a little burnt. Cylinder 1. That's good, that's good. All right, I can't get it into cylinder 2. That could very well be the problem, but let's test the rest of the cylinders. Cylinder 3. Looks like we're good on cylinder 3. Cylinder 4 is good. Cylinder 5, go ahead. Good. Cylinder 6, go ahead. Perfect. All right, so back to cylinder 2. I've been trying to thread that thing in there for the last 30 minutes. It will not catch, so I got a thread chaser to see if this does anything. Easy does it. See, this threads right in, no problem. It still doesn't want to go. Why? All right, so that was mostly a success other than cylinder 2, and I'm still just not sure why I couldn't get this to catch. But good news is I didn't see anything on the back of the spark plug that would indicate the seal is bad, so I don't really think it matters. I could absolutely definitely be wrong though. I really don't want to go through the whole helicoil thing, so I'd much rather just avoid that. And I do have injectors coming next week. I'm going to throw those in and hopefully that'll solve the problem. But let me know if you think that would be a waste of my time and I should just fix this problem before I do anything else. It ain't no fun, but it's gotta be done. The time has finally come to paint the Beamer, but before we can do any of that fun stuff, we have to prep. I started by removing the spoiler because I've always hated it. I filled the holes with JB Weld, and as janky as that may seem, it does the job. Then I started sanding away with an angle grinder, which again, probably isn't the correct way to do things, but there's nothing correct in this video, so if that's what you're looking for, look elsewhere. I used my hand to sand down some of the more hard to reach spots, and then I started cleaning it. First, I tried to use just a bucket of water, but I quickly realized that wasn't working at all, so I ran to the store and got some Dawn dish soap and a hose. I gave it a quick wipe down to see the spots that I missed. I went in and sanded those over again, and then I cleaned it a little bit more thoroughly this time, making sure to get all of the debris off the car. Once it was dry, I decided to get a head start on my taping and taped up some of the more easier to reach spots. I did the taillights, and then I went to tape up the front emblem, but I realized it was literally just barely hanging on, so I pulled that off. I taped up the headlights and the grills and called it a day. Now, there is a lot more to be done on this car, but I can tell you the paint job that I'm gonna do is very experimental and complicated, so let me know how you think that's gonna go. These little injectors right here are pretty much my last hope to get this thing running right. And if they don't work, engine's getting blown up. Well, the rest of them came up. Nice. Lots of dirt down there. Damn. TikTok shop. Now this should just pop up in theory. Real easy. Oh, there it is. Lots of fuel. Oops. Honestly, they don't even look that dirty, which kind of worries me a little bit. All right, new injectors going in. Everybody say a prayer. No leaks, that's good. We've already got a new code, P0201. That code means something's wrong with one of the fuel injectors, so that's great. And this thing is shaking hardcore. You see how bad this thing is rocking right now? All of the codes are back. All right, well, that's it. I give up. I've put too much time and money into this thing, and I'm just sick of it. So I'm gonna paint it, I'm gonna straight pipe it, do some other fun and reckless stuff with it. And then for the grand finale, a big old shot of nitrous, making it a race car for about 5 seconds before it either blows a hole in the block or sends a piston to the moon. Now I understand why so many people hate BMW. There is no amount of money that I would wrap another car for. I don't think there's another thing in this world that's more tedious, time-consuming, and frustrating than wrapping a car. It started off so well, too. I did the quarter panel first, and that went perfect. I glassed it. So at this point, I'm thinking, it's not so bad. I can do this. And then I tried to do the door, and I messed up and had to start over with a whole new piece. Then I ripped this piece of vinyl, and I had to cover that with the second sheet, so now there's a giant seam there. And just like the other door, I had to redo this one, too. And if you're wondering why I didn't take the door handles off, it's because I'm lazy, and I thought that I'd be able to work around it. Now, all of that was annoying, but this was the worst part. The body kit still was not holding vinyl even after I did all that prep on it. So I had to tape it all up and prime every piece. It really wasn't so bad, but it was just annoying because I spent hours prepping these pieces already just for it to not work. But anyway, I got everything primed, and if you even thought that I was gonna attempt to wrap that front bumper by myself, you were wrong. I had my 2 friends help me with it. It's definitely not the prettiest wrap in the world, but it's good enough for me. I didn't do the hood because I have a carbon fiber one coming anyway, and if you were wondering what color this is, it's called Gloss Glacier Blue by Orifel. But let me know how I did and what you think. I am this close to throwing 100 shot of nitrous in this thing, making it a race car for about 5 seconds before it ultimately grenades itself and ends up in a landfill. Because I've done everything. I've done everything to try and fix this car, and yet it doesn't want to run right. And these right here are one of my last hopes before I just throw in the towel on this thing. All right, there's one. Oh, always. There's 2. And you might be wondering, why are you throwing new O2 sensors in if you've already done that? Well, the first O2 sensors that I threw in were non-genuine O2 sensors. They were just, cheap whatever ones. And after looking at some forums, I heard that these cars will only work with the genuine Bosch O2 sensors. So I bought some used ones off eBay, cheaping out again, as if I didn't learn my lesson the first 5 times. And if these don't work, there's only about 2 other things that I suspect it could be, and I don't think it's likely to be those because the symptoms don't line up with that. So now it's time to turn it on and pray. All right, give me something. It already sounds better, because by now it should be stuttering. So far so good, but now let's take it on a test drive. 1189 and 1188, always there. And the O2 sensor codes are back. What the fuck? Holy shit. New codes, woohoo! 302 and 303, never seen those ones before. New codes again, 306 and 305. And guess what?
all those codes and still no check engine light. If that doesn't tell you something about the previous owner, I don't know what does. All right, so the car does not stall anymore and has a stronger and more steady idle, which is good. However, we now have 12 codes. 6 of those codes are misfires. Every cylinder is misfiring. I've changed the MAF sensor. I've changed the O2 sensors twice. Resealed the valve cover. Cleaned the IAC valve. Changed the PCV and the CCV. New spark plugs. New coil packs. New battery. I tested the fuel pressure. I vacuum tested it. I brought it to a shop to have them diagnose it, and they couldn't figure it out. So if anybody has any idea on what could be causing the issue with this car, please let me know.
Who nerfed the bleach? Because although it may be surprising to some of you, I've dipped a lot of shoes in bleach and I've left them in there for various amounts of time. It started with some Air Forces a few years ago. The first time I did this, I left them in there for about 8 hours and they were completely destroyed by that time. The longest I've seen a shoe go without being completely disintegrated is about 24 hours. But these, take a guess how long they were sitting in that bleach for. Time's up. The answer was 3 days, a whopping 72 hours, and they barely look any different. Okay, that might be a stretch, but they're not disintegrated. Just basically a few color changes, but let me know who's copying the Christmas Kizzos tonight.
These shoes have no hidden meanings. The name of these shoes, Just Sue It, is actually named after somebody I knew as a child. Her name was Sue, and she got shit done.
Orange is my favorite color. It has nothing to do with the flagship color of any major brand.
The drop date, January 25th, is just the last Saturday of the month and has no historical significance to any other major brands.
FU on the CD, forever unbiased.
All these CDs are there just because we love music, and we did not choose CDs because C and D could stand for something else. They are just CDs.
Certified money bags.
So to recap, these shoes are called the Just Sue It's. They drop on January 25th and they have no hidden meanings.
My name is not Kyle, but I may or may not have a hole in the wall the exact same size as my foot. So now we get to find out if I can fix something like this because I've never done it before. I did a whole lot of research on this, and by that I mean I watched maybe 2 TikToks, and I discovered that when you have a hole this big in drywall, you need a lot more drywall to fix it. So I went to Ace Hardware and got all the supplies I needed. This is a 16 by 16 piece of drywall, and I cut out the exact size and shape of the hole. Then I used some big paint stir sticks as support. The guys at Ace Hardware suggested this, and they were free, so I was totally on board. I secured the paint sticks to the wall, and then I secured the piece of drywall to the stir stick. Then I had to fill everything in with spackle and joint tape, and in hindsight, I should have had more spackle and better joint tape, but we're dealing with what we got. I threw a whole bunch of spackle on there, and then the next day when it was dry, I came back to sand it, but I discovered there were some mistakes made and imperfections, so I added more spackle on top of that. After about 3 rounds of spackling and sanding, I finally had a good wall to work on, so I got some paint that was exactly color matched to the wall, and I painted over everything. And now you can barely, kinda, not even tell that something happened to the wall, but just don't kick your walls in the first place. I thought my days of big red boot destruction were over, but then my buddy Trey Flip asked me if I could customize his pair, and of course I'm not going to turn that down. He mainly wanted me to do this because when he wore them while they were high tops, they ripped up his shins per usual, and he wanted me to turn them into low tops. Then he made the mistake of giving me full creative freedom, with the only guideline being using purple and pink. And I gotta admit, I had a lot of fun doing these because usually when I'm doing a big red boot, I'm trying to recreate a character's shoes, but with these I got to go completely wild. So I stuck to the purple and pink colorway that he gave me. I made the base purple, added a gradient pink to the sole, and also made the collar pink. Then I started gluing these metal spikes all over the place. And before you ask, no, these are not gonna last a whole long time, but I just wanted to make these as cool as they could be because big red boots are unwearable in the first place. They're very uncomfortable. And to make them even more uncomfortable and unwearable, I added these giant metal spikes to the collar, so he's probably gonna impale his own legs while he's walking. But functionality was not the goal here, so it's okay. I glued the collar down to the base to secure it, and this is the final result. I love how these came out. It's the first time I've got to go wild on a pair of these, but let me know what you think. Let's ruin a perfectly good skateboard. I made this as a surprise for Trey Flip 101 because he's always skating our shoes, showing us love. He's a great dude, a friend of mine, so I just wanted to do something nice for him. But sadly, this skateboard ended up being a perfect example of the quality of my work. I'm the guy known for destroying things, quote unquote, but in reality, I'm just lazy. That might be a bit of a stretch. I can't remember the last time I actually had a real day off. I'm busy all the time, and that's the problem. I don't have time for these projects. Back in the good old quarantine days, these videos were the only thing that I had to worry about doing. Then I had to start adulting. That brought a lot of responsibilities. We also founded Kizzo, so I'm trying to balance running a business at the same time as my solo projects and just life itself. And if you couldn't tell, that's a little stressful, just a little bit. Add all that to the fact that I'm pumping these videos out, 3 new projects a week. But hey, this is the life I asked for and the life I chose, so who am I to complain? But that's why on most of my projects, the design is there, but the execution, not always. For instance, this project, I didn't allow enough time for the paint to dry and the stencils ripped up some of the paint. But considering this thing is gonna be skated one day, neither Trey or I really cared. Let me know what you think about it though. I built the biggest screen printing screen in the world. Okay, maybe not the world, but it's definitely way bigger than anything I could find online. I started by cutting some 2x4s at 48 inches and 40 inches. Then I was gonna cut some 45-degree angles along the edges so it could be a little more seamless and sturdy. However, I soon realized that this would take about 8 inches off of my height and my width, so I used some corner braces that I modified a bit by stomping on them and hitting them with the 2x4 to make them flat. Caveman engineering at its best. Then I screwed into those and ran into another issue. Sorry the video looks like this. I was shooting in time lapse, but as you can see by my face, I was not amused. I then moved on to plan B, which should have been plan A, but I'm just an idiot. A nail gun, and I threw a whole bunch of nails in there. Then I started stretching my screen around the frame and stapling it to the frame, keeping it as tight as possible. Then finally I moved on to the emulsion, and this had to be done in a completely dark room. It's much darker than it looks on camera, but this is where I think I made a huge mistake. I thought I could get away with using a squeegee instead of a scooper, but it looks horrible and I don't know if it'll work at all, but I guess we'll see. No way! No way! You gotta stack all 25 boxes, and if you do so, then you get a free pair of shoes. So only rules are you can go only 3 boxes at a time, and you can't double stack them like on their side like that.
18 right now. Get up there. Oh. Yes, sir.
Oh! No way! No way! Look at that. That's insanity. What size are you? Right there.
Good looks, bro.
Tragedy struck when we got caught in the rain and my girlfriend's brand new Uggs were ruined, but thankfully I'm not useless and I was able to take them from this to this, and I'll show you how I did it. Step 1, stuff something inside the Uggs so they hold their shape. Step 2, take a dry, medium to hard bristle brush and brush away any dirt or debris. Step 3, get a good cleaner. I'm using Angelus, and a soft bristle brush, and when you dip your brush in the water, make sure you shake all of the water out as much as you can. Step 4, delicately clean the Uggs and make sure you're brushing in the same direction the whole time. Step 5, dry the Uggs. Pat dry, don't rub, pat. Then again, you're gonna take your hard bristle brush and brush everything again in the same direction. Now you could just let these sit and dry, or you could use a hair dryer like I'm using. And for those more stubborn water spots, you can use a suede eraser to kind of buff them out. And this step is optional, but definitely recommended. Take some suede renew, brush it through the shoe with the hard bristle brush, again brushing in the same direction, and then dry. Lastly, take your hard bristle brush again and reset the nap on the suede. You should have a nice buttery suede now. So I saved my girlfriend's Uggs. She's happy, that means so am I, and you can buy all the stuff you saw in this video at the link in my bio. Why buy a smoke tester when you can make one? Well, I'll tell you why. All you need is some sort of pump, some silicone, vinyl tubing, baby oil, no diddy, balloons, some brass fittings with barbs on them, a soldering iron, and some sort of jar. That all cost me about 30 bucks, but making this thing is actually even easier. Pop 3 holes in the lid. You'll probably have to make them a little bigger. Throw the soldering iron in the middle one. Have your assistant check the brass fitting before installing. Throw that in one of the side holes, and then in the remaining hole, place the pump. None of this has to be perfect, but try to make it as clean as you can because you do need this to be airtight. Once everything is in place, start using silicone to seal it. There's no such thing as too much here. Just throw it all on there. And make sure whatever glue you're using is heat resistant, because if you use hot glue, as soon as you turn that soldering iron on, the glue's just gonna melt and you're gonna have an air leak in there. Once it's all dry, throw some paper towels in there, douse them in baby oil, and connect your vinyl tubing to the brass fitting. Throw the other end of the tube into your intake and seal that with a balloon. This all sounds good in theory, but it didn't actually work. There were leaks everywhere and I probably could have fixed those, but the bigger problem is you have to hand pump this. So how are you supposed to look for leaks? I should have just bought a cheap one on Amazon. All I wanted to do was replace my PCV valve, but the genius engineers that designed this car had other plans. Just this one screw on the back of this hose clamp took me about an hour to get off. I could not see a single nut, bolt, or screw on this job. And because of that, a job that should have been relatively quick took me forever and gave me a bunch of videos like this on my camera roll. And all I want is the car to run smoothly and not stall at idle. I already changed the O2 sensors, the MAP sensor, spark plugs, I checked for vacuum leaks, I cleaned the IAC valve, and I resealed the valve cover. Now I'm doing the PCV and the CCV, which needed to be done anyway because the hoses were all brittle and the diaphragm was torn. And man, was it an annoying job. It was one of the last things on my list though, so I was fairly confident this would fix my stalling problem. But after I did the entire job twice because I forgot to plug in one of the vacuum hoses, this is what happened.
Please be it. You're going to the junkyard if you're not fixed. Something sounds wrong. It sounds like it has like a big old cam in it.
I was stumped on these shoes. I didn't know what to do to them. But then I went on a creative break and I figured it out. So I quickly cleaned the shoes because they definitely needed it, and then I got to work. I decided to do a red, orange, yellow gradient, and originally I was gonna do that by bleaching the shoes and then dyeing them, but these didn't react to bleach, so I had to paint them, which I hate doing because it takes so much longer. And to make matters worse, I made a major mistake because I painted these while they were wet, so the canvas basically absorbed all the paint and I had to paint them twice. But it's okay because I was kind of enjoying myself. I was very surprised to see how well this was going considering how long it's been since I last used paint, but the gradient was coming out just so smooth. I added gradients everywhere. I added it to the sole, and yes, I know that won't last. I added it to the upper, obviously. I used my girlfriend's nail buffer to get the stains out of the rows, and then I even added gradients to the laces. And surprising enough, a shoe that I actually had no idea how to start turns out to be one of my favorite customs of all time. Not only did I put a lot of time and effort into these compared to my other works, but they came out amazing. Let me know what you think though. What started as a mistake is now becoming tradition. On the last drop, we didn't order enough boxes, so we had to get some generic boxes, and we thought we'd make them look a little better by customizing them. We thought it was really fun to do, and you guys really seemed to love it too. The people that bought them were really happy to get a custom box from us, so we wanted to do it again. We did 50 boxes last time, but this time we did 45, and that was definitely on purpose. We did not miscount. I can confirm we definitely did not miscount. But with that experience under our belt, this time around was a lot easier and came out a lot better in my opinion. One, because these are our actual boxes, not some generic ones. And two, with that experience under our belt, we were able to make a design this time that was a little bit more cohesive. So we went through, added a colorful abstract design to the top of all the boxes, and then numbered them 1 through 45. Then we signed each box like we did last time. These were done for the Valentine's Day drop, which is tomorrow, February 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for $150. 45 custom boxes and all the rest are regular boxes. But let me know, are you gonna go for a custom box or just the plain old original box? Here's all of the big red boots I've destroyed ranked worst to best along with the total I've spent. First up and dead last, these Croc big red boots. They weren't based off of a character and they look like crap. Next up is the Jorgen von Strangle boots. I used Classe Azul belts for these, but they're just a little too simple. In 8th place is Bart Simpson's shoes. Very accurate to the character, but again, just a little bit too simple for my liking. Next up is a pair of customs that I did for Pink Sweats. I love how these came out, but they're not based off of a character or else they'd be ranked higher. This is gonna piss some of you off, but in 6th place, we have Goku's boots. They're just not my favorite. I don't know, nothing special about them. Breaking into the top 5, this is where things get good. Buzz Lightyear's boots, I used Zin cans on these ones, and I actually love how they came out. Shadow's shoes were next, and everybody hated these, but I love them. There's a lot of detail, and it was the most difficult pair I've done. In 3rd place, we have Tails shoes. These are very simple, but very clean. That's why I put them in 3rd. These could have been the number 1, but instead they're in 2nd place. Knuckles shoes, a lot of detail and pretty difficult to do, but came out really clean. And if you didn't see this one coming, you should have. In 1st place is the Sonic shoes. These are the ones that started it all, and also he's my favorite character, so I'm a little biased. But let me know which pair is your favorite.
Bath time. Apollo's first.
What? I wasn't the one that got you dirty. Yeah. Oh no, go back here. Good boy. Give me a shake.
Now Monty hates baths, as you can see.
See the paws.
Thank you.
No, buddy.
Monty.
Why didn't I just come in here in the first place?
Cut it out, you.
This doesn't even count everything that came out in the bath and with the dryer. Give me a kiss. Give me a kiss. Good boy. Good job. Good job.
It's time to see if my crazy idea for a paint job works or if I just wasted my time and money. The plan was to make the car look like a jawbreaker, so I threw a whole bunch of colors down, a white coat on top of it. Now I'm sanding through that white coat to reveal the layers underneath, and I was surprised by how many people guessed that correctly. I started by sanding just the body lines at first, and that was going pretty well, surprisingly, and it was looking pretty good until I thought to myself, that could use some more color. So I just started sanding away in a bunch of random spots, and I'm not sure how I feel about this decision still. I think I might have gone a little overboard. But I was way too deep into the process to give up now, so I had to keep moving forward. I sanded for about 16 hours by hand before I could finally clean off the paint and start spraying my 2K clear. And this is the moment where things started to come together a little bit, as I kind of thought it would, because the 2K clear just brought out the colors a whole bunch more and made everything look a lot more uniform. And then finally, after about 32 hours of sanding and painting and everything else in between, I was able to take the tape off and see the car in its final form. And I gotta say, for this being my first time ever painting a car and it being such an experimental idea, I think it came out pretty good. But let me know what you think. Did I go too far with the sanding, or are you feeling this jawbreaker paint job? Usually when we pack shoes, it's very simple. You take the shoes out, inspect them, make sure they're the right size, put them in a dust bag, and then put them in a box. But this time around, it was a lot more complicated because of one small detail. Also, a little side note, everybody that packed up these shoes signed one box, including Zuki and I, and we wrote on the front more than just a rose. So if you get this pair, you get a free pair of Just Suits next month. So make sure you DM us. But these little thingies were the reason that this packing job took way longer than all of the other ones. After they were all packed up in their boxes, we had to wrap them in custom Kizzo wrapping paper. And it took forever, but I think it was well worth it because name another shoe that comes in wrapping paper. It's perfect for a Christmas themed shoe. Anyway, after the shoes get wrapped in their wrapping paper, they get dropped in a shipping box, a label slapped on top, and then they get shipped to the customer. And we've been working non-stop the last 3 days to get all of these shoes shipped out by tonight, because anything after tonight probably wouldn't make it to them by Christmas. And thankfully, we got them all out on time. Of course, we gave a pair to our UPS driver, Neil, the best guy in the world, and that was it for this drop. Let me know who copped. I severely underestimated how hard screen printing is. I started by trying to print my design on these transparent sheets, but that wasn't working at all for some reason, so I had to resort to stencils. The design was so big, I had to separate it onto 3 separate sheets and connect those sheets. I also had to weed each one of them by hand. This took forever. Then I used some transfer tape to pick the stencil up in one piece, but that grid pattern might have created a problem in the long run. It might have burned into the final design, but I didn't realize that until after I placed it, so I had to remove it very carefully. I was losing my mind at this point because everything that could have gone wrong was going wrong. However, I pushed forward. I should have done way more research because I thought burning screens was simple. I thought you just throw a design on there, throw it in the sun, and forget about it. However, it is extremely sensitive. There are a million different factors that come into play. I tried the first screen with a 500-watt light. That didn't work at all. So I tried the second one in the sun, and spoiler alert, that didn't work either. So all of this work was for nothing, and I don't really even know what to do next. So let me know if you want to see me try this again. Egress is still yet to be printed on a t-shirt though. They say third time's a charm, but I don't think so. Because this is my third attempt at ice dyeing a pair of shoes. I've been unsuccessful thus far, and I thought that I finally had it figured out. So I threw the shoes in there with the ice and the dye powder, plus I added a drainage hole this time because I learned from my previous mistakes, and I let that all melt. But while that was melting, I started another experiment. Because these canvas shoes you see in front of me are the SneakerCon exclusives that we're dropping this weekend at the Fort Lauderdale SneakerCon. This will be our third SneakerCon, and it'll also be our third time doing dip dyes live. People come up to the booth and they can choose to get their shoes dyed any color or colors they want. So I needed this shoe to serve as a sample to show people what the colors actually look like on the shoe. It took about 5 hours for all the ice to actually melt, and I don't even think it was worth it, as you can see by my face right here. Which kind of sucks because these were my personal pair. I'm going to be wearing this exact pair at SneakerCon. In the end, I was kind of able to save them, and I like them a little better now, but let me know what you think about them, and let me know who's going to be at SneakerCon Fort Lauderdale. It's going to be the craziest event we've ever done. We're going to be dip dyeing like usual. My barber will be there giving out free haircuts, and we're also, at the end of the day, going to destroy one of the most coveted Nike sneakers ever. We're about to destroy 200 pairs of shoes worth about $35,000. That might sound like it's clickbait, and I kinda wish it was, but it's not. See, we had a problem over here at Kizzo. We had a bunch of leftover shoes because one of our drops, for the first time in history, didn't sell out. So what could we have done? We could have let the shoes sit for the next 6-7 months, discount them, and sell them slowly. But where is the fun in that? So instead, we called up our buddy Artlana and asked him if he wanted to help us with this little art project. The idea was to use all the scraps from the shoes to create a giant art piece. I'm talking bigger than we've ever made anything before. The first day was spent cutting up all the shoes. The second day, Zuki and I spent 12 hours building the framework, the foundation for this piece. And Zuki, being Zuki, decided to make this way more complicated than it needed to be. My original idea was to just make a 2D piece, but he wanted to make it 3D, so we had to carve a bunch of styrofoam out. It was messy and took a lot of extra time, but I gotta say it was the best decision made on this piece. So after all that, we had the frame made and the shoes cut up, and we could actually start making this thing. Let me know what you think it's gonna be, though. I hate customizing duffel bags because for some reason they always turn out horrible. But this duffel bag might have actually came out kinda cool. I still don't really know how I feel about it. I printed a whole bunch of stencils to cover up the embossed diamonds that are on this duffel bag. Then I went over the top of those with a blue, pink, and purple gradient. Then I threw some green splatter on there, and I hated this when I did it, but in the end it added a nice touch to the final design. Now at this point, the bag was pretty much done. This was the original idea I had in my head. All I had to do was add some gradient to the strap. However, I went a little too heavy on the spray paint, and I tried to remove the spray paint, and that just kind of left these streaks behind, but they gave me an idea. So I sprayed the whole bag in a heavy coat of white spray paint, and then I removed that paint with a paper towel, and that left these colorful streaks behind. This gives me the feeling of like a worn down wall of graffiti. It looks like it's aged over the past 20 years or something like that. I love this a whole lot more than the original plan. I added some black accents, removed the stencils, and yeah, the stencils bled a lot, but I kind of expected that. I went to film the final shots of this bag, and I realized my shoes were way too beat, so I spray painted them to give them a new look, and this is the final bag. Let me know what you think about it. Can I make a nightstand with pallets that I found in the trash? Obviously, but can I make them good enough that my girlfriend will actually like them? That's the real question. I started by dismantling all the pallets, and this took a lot longer than I thought it would, but nonetheless, I got it done and started making my cuts. I used the thicker pieces on the underside of the pallets to make the frame, the skeleton of this table. And once that was done, I started using the slats to cover the outside of it and make it look a little nicer. Only problem was, I didn't have enough wood. So many pieces, but they were all either the wrong size or rotten or just not usable, so I had to go get another pallet from the trash to cover the rest of it. Originally, I wanted no gaps in between the slats, but as we've already established, I didn't have enough material, so that had to change. Then to bring everything together, I sanded the whole piece down to get rid of the ugly surface of the wood and also just smooth everything out. After that, I busted out the torch and did some shoshugiban, which is a Japanese wood preservation technique, but I just think it looks cool. I shoved it in my car and closed my door with zip ties. It was not a comfortable ride, and I destroyed my interior, but I got them both home. My girlfriend had no idea that I made these, and I told her that I got them on Facebook Marketplace to get a more honest reaction, and this is what she thought of them.
Please tell me these are temporary.
Plot twist. I spent 2 days building those.
Now I feel bad.
Well, no, because you didn't know. That's why I didn't want to tell you.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
2024 was insane, and these are my favorite projects from the year. We start out with an honorable mention. I tattooed my dogs, Monty and Apollo's paw prints to my arm and leg. They're some of my favorite tattoos ever. Coming in at 5th place would be this stone coffee table that I made. Not only did it save me a bunch of money, but it actually came out really good, which is not typical for my projects. 4th place goes to the mural that I did in the Kizzo warehouse. This was the first and kind of the only real mural I've ever done, and I love how it came out. 3rd place had to go to the Sonic shoes. Maybe I'm a little biased right now because I just saw the movie and I can't stop thinking about Sonic, but these came out amazing. In 2nd place is the giant treasure chest that we just made for Kai Sanat. Not only was it really fun to make, it came out a lot better than I expected it to, and Kai loved it.
Holy shit. Wow, that's a W.
And 1st place had to go to the giant American flag that we made out of 200 pairs of Kizzos. Not only did this thing take us like a week to make, but we spent about $40,000 on the materials alone to build this thing. Thank you all for such an amazing year, not only for me, but also for Kizzo. It was a great year, but 2025 is gonna be even better, so buckle up. Yeah, it may barely run, but that doesn't mean it has to be quiet, so let's DIY an exhaust. I started by cutting out the existing exhaust with a cut-off wheel. I had to finish with the Sawzall because the cutting wheel wasn't big enough. I used some Diddy oil to get the mufflers off the rubber hangers, and that worked pretty well. And with this monstrosity off the car, I had to see how it sounded. It didn't sound half bad, but I had a feeling that was going to change as soon as I finished. I had to modify some existing pieces to get everything to fit, but once I had it all mocked up, I was pretty confident. I was going to clamp everything together, but then I remembered I have a welder, so I figured I'd try that. I cleaned up the surface a little bit and I got to work. This is only my second time welding. The first time went horribly, and this time didn't go much better because the welds are questionable at best. But hey, it's in one piece, and I think it's pretty durable because I threw it on the ground a bunch of times and it held up fine, so it might not be pretty, but it works. Then I started connecting everything back to the car. I used a clamp to connect my makeshift exhaust to the existing exhaust, and I used some hanger straps to hold up the back end. Then finally, to make this thing somewhat presentable, I threw on some dual chrome exhaust tips. I had zero hope this thing would sound any good, but let me know what you think about this $100 exhaust setup. Part 2, the final part of destroying 200 pairs of shoes to make a giant art piece. We started by freestyling a bunch of spray paint on the base of the piece because why not? Then about 5 minutes later, we covered it all up with white and got the projector out so we could trace our design. And to everyone that guessed we were making an American flag, good job, you're so smart! And the main reason we chose to do an American flag is because the materials on the shoe are red, white, and blue, so it only made sense. There's also a deeper reason, but I'll get into that in the next video. But the actual making of this piece wasn't all that complicated. We just had to glue a lot. We went through about 25 bottles of industrial strength adhesive, spending every day for a week straight, morning until night, gluing every piece one by one. It took forever, but it was definitely worth it. And as one of the finishing touches, we added Artlanta's signature secret diamond dust to the white stripes and the stars. And man, I wish you guys could see it in person because that stuff glistens. It dances in the light. So after about a week's worth of time, 200 pairs of shoes, and $40,000, the piece was complete. And the best part is there's nothing on this piece that didn't come from a shoe. We used almost every part of it, from the box to the dust bags to the laces. And it's safe to say that's never been done before and never will be done again. So let me know what you think about this piece and what we should start the auction at. We're selling this giant American flag for $1 million. But why that much? And why did we do it in the first place? Well, for starters, the piece cost us $40,000 to make because we destroyed 200 pairs of shoes to make it. And I've seen all the comments calling us horrible people because we didn't donate these. But you're forgetting two things. One, we're not exactly swimming in it right now. We could use that money. We didn't just make this to make this, we're selling it. And two, there was 300 pairs. We only destroyed 200. So whoever buys this piece can choose where the remaining 100 shoes get donated. So calm down and stop calling us evil. But the real question is, why an American flag? Well, it's because we're kind of petty. One of the reasons these shoes didn't sell is because people thought they were too patriotic. They didn't want to rep the USA, which I found both weird and sad. Because no matter what you believe or who you are, at the end of the day, you're still an American. This is the home team. And I know the country's not in the best place and hasn't been for a while, and a lot of us aren't really proud to call it home. But I do know one thing, and that's that Americans are resilient. No matter how bad it gets, we'll figure it out, and that's why I'm most proud to be an American. So we doubled down on the patriotism and made an American flag like no other. Nothing like this has ever been done before and probably never will be done again. And it was also made with the hopes that one day all of us, not just some of us, would be proud to call America home. So auction's open. Bids start at $100,000. Here's a full cost and part breakdown on my grandpa car. It's a 2015 RC350. I got it for $27, but I financed it for $400 a month because, contrary to popular belief, I'm not rich. Moving on to the wheels, these are niche Essence. I'm pretty sure they're reps, but I could not care less, and I love them. They're 20 by 9 plus 35. Those will run you $2,100. For the suspension, I have it sitting on a set of BC Racing BR coilovers, and I love them. Those go for around $1,200. The grill was one of the most expensive parts of this build. I had to get an OEM F-Sport one for $700. I painted it black and slapped it on, but it honestly changed the look of the car so much. It's way better. The tires cost about $500 altogether. I have some Advan Apexes on the front, 265 30 20. They do rub a little at full turn, but it's not a big deal. The rears are a little bit beefier at 265 35 20, and they also rub a little. Tints ran me about $400, 15 all around, 35 on the front. The lip only cost about $112, but I've gone through about 4 of them, and I already need a new one because they just get chewed up. I also did a chrome delete around the windows for about $50. Moving on to the ass, I have nothing really crazy going on back here. I have this cheap $140 diffuser and these $15 splitters, along with this $600 catback exhaust system. Muffler delete, high flow resonators, and I love how it sounds. So in total, I'm all in for about 33 grand. Let me know what you think though. Does it make any sense to restore a pair of Red Octobers for the sole purpose of destroying them later on? No, not at all. But I had to do it for 15-year-old me. As you previously saw, these Red Octobers are a little bit worn. So I really wanted to restore them, and I knew that made no sense because they were going to be destroyed in a few days anyway, but I just had to do it for the inner child sneakerhead inside me. When I was younger, I couldn't afford new shoes, so I had to buy beat-up pairs and restore them. And that's actually what sparked my whole career, but I guess I'm out of practice because I forgot on shoes this old, you can't put them in the dryer because the heat will cause sole separation. So I literally almost ruined these before I got the chance to ruin them, but nonetheless, it was a pretty easy fix. I did a general cleaning on them, and then I had to paint match the midsoles because those had a bunch of paint cracks on them. I actually got it on like my second try, which was actually very surprising to me, but it came out perfect. And the whole time, the little kid inside me was jumping up and down screaming, "Holy shit, I can't believe we have a pair of Red Octobers," but 25-year-old me just couldn't wait to destroy them. I just had to show them a little respect. This isn't a pair of Air Forces that I'm destroying here. It's a pair of Red Octobers, a shoe that holds a special place in any sneakerhead's heart. This was a big moment for me, kind of symbolic in a way, but let me know what you think about it. Can you get a good paint job with rattle cans? I have no idea, so let's find out. First, I had to finish the tape job that I was bullied for in part 1, which I'm very used to, but the worst part about this one is after I read through all the comments, I realized that y'all might have had some good points. You got me, you were right. However, you must be new here because I don't do anything right. I literally have no idea what I'm doing ever. I wing everything, which is exactly what I did with this entire paint job. I have no idea if this is actually gonna work. To my knowledge, nothing like this has ever been done before. So why would you spend all this time and money on a paint job when you have no idea if it'll actually work? Because I'm stupid and make bad financial decisions. I went through about 10 cans layering color on top of color on top of color. My goal was to have as many layers as I could. And at this point, it was looking like a barricade off of a paintball yard, but I came to clean it up with a solid coat of white on top of everything. I did about 3 coats, and it took me about 12 cans to get a solid and even coat around the whole car. So at the moment, I'm about 20 hours and $200 into a pretty mediocre white paint job. But if my plan actually works, it's going to be one of the sickest paint jobs you've ever seen. Let me know what you think my plan is, though.
It's a little windy out here, bro.
1920s right here. Let them cook.
Just got a tap.
Woo! Oh, it stayed. 23? 24! Hey, that was good. What size are you, bro?
Open them up, boy. How do you open these hose?
I don't know. Do the internet mechanics have any idea what they're talking about? Let's find out. For months now, a lot of people have speculated that my problem is my ECU. It's just spinning. That last one just doesn't want to come up, so I'm gonna make it. So I pulled out the ECU just to get a look underneath it, see if there was any water damage or anything funky, and just like I expected, nothing wrong, at least visually. Now to put it back. Let's see if the car ever starts again. All right, so that's back on. I have a broken housing now, but the ECU looks fine. But just because it looks fine doesn't mean it is fine, so I have a few more things to look at. Ignition on. I have to check the pins on the ignition coil connector because this cylinder has been giving me problems even with new plugs and 2 new sets of coil packs. This first pin should read about 12 volts and it's reading 11.9, so that's good. The second pin I have to switch to like ohms or something, whatever that is. Now this should be around 0 and it's at 0.2, so that's okay too. And of course, this tool isn't accurate enough to read pin 3, which is the most important pin because that's the pin the ECU uses to send a signal to the coil. So I guess the test is kind of inconclusive. And because of that, I can't be 100% sure that the ECU isn't the problem. But I'm pretty sure because the symptoms and codes don't align with it and everything on it looks pretty good. However, there's a very good chance that I did all that wrong because I have no idea what I'm doing, especially when it comes to anything electrical. Right here, I'll throw up all the codes that it's throwing and all the things that I've already changed or replaced just so you don't have to comment something that I've already done. But I would love some more advice from you internet mechanics, so let me hear it. A shop quoted me $1,100 for a job that I did myself for only $100. And this is my favorite thing about having knowledge on cars. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a professional, I know everything. I barely know anything, but I know enough not to pay $1,100 to have a valve cover gasket changed. And the most aggravating part about all of this is Joe Schmo, the typical guy, would have paid that that $1,100. Because they don't know anything about cars and think it's way too hard to do this stuff. But apps like Tinker make it possible for anybody, even someone as dumb as me, to do it. Tinker's an app that allows you to FaceTime actual mechanics and they'll help you through whatever project you're doing. Because no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, there's always that one super specific problem that you just can't fix, but Tinker will help you do it. But anyway, back to the project. I changed every single gasket on every little piece because they were all cracked and brittle and old, and I also used a whole bunch of black RTV because I recently had a smoke test done on this thing and it showed that there was a lot of leakage coming from the valve cover, which I think might be the root cause of my stalling issue. So now that this is done, I can go in tomorrow and replace the PCV, and hopefully it'll run smooth by then. Here's a full tutorial on how I made this ashtray with a place to display, a place to ash, a place to rest, and even a place to put out. It only cost me about $15 in material, and you don't need any sort of skill level to do this. This is the first time I've touched this clay, or any clay as a matter of fact. It's called Sculpey 3 and I got it at Michael's. All I did was combine a bunch of colors and mix them around until I got a combination and a pattern that I liked. Then I formed it into kind of a sphere with a flat bottom and poked my finger through the top to make the actual bowl where the ashes go. I rolled out a piece of black clay to look like a snake's tail. That's for the ashing feature. Then I used a poker to poke holes in the side for the extinguishing and display features. And lastly, I made this leaf looking thing for the resting feature. I used isopropyl alcohol to smooth everything out, and then I put it in the oven at 275 for about an hour and a half because it was thick. There was a bunch of cracks because I either didn't condition the clay enough or it changed temperature too quickly, but I used some liquid polymer clay from the same place to fill those cracks in. Then finally I got some UV resin also from Michael's, painted that all over the thing and hardened it with a UV light, but you could also just use the sun. I had a lot of fun making the ashtray, so I wanted to make more things. I made this little jewelry dish for my girlfriend, but let me know what you think of the both of these things though.
60% of you hated these, and I hate to break it to you, but 60% of you are wrong, because these are one of my favorite customs in a long time. It's rare for me to mock something up, plan it out, and then execute it whilst taking my time. And with these shoes being gator themed, I got a really good idea for a custom. I wanted to turn the whole shoe into like the head of a gator with a scary eye and like a menacing smile. Also, just a side note, I love how these shoes look all black. It's super clean. I started coloring in the eye and I used this cool heat gun that I found in my girlfriend's stuff to dry in between coats. Then I colored the eye teal because the original color of the shoe was teal. Then finally I removed the rest of the stencils and started working on the little touch-ups. Once the eye was in a good spot, I started sketching out my menacing smile, and I used Shinra's devil smile from Fire Force as a reference. I added some shading and then I added some popped blood vessels to the eye to make it look angrier, I guess. Here's the final shoe. I love them, and if you disagree, you're wrong. But let me know what you think, and let me know who's copping the teal gators on Saturday.
I needed to change my blinker fluid, but I figured it'd be easier to just get new headlights. Headlights are always one of my favorite mods to do on a car because 1, they're easy as hell, and 2, they make it look way newer than it is. And yes, I know halos on an E46 are about as original as a white girl at a frat party with beat Air Force Ones, but they still look good. So I got the headlights in about 20 minutes, and then I started working on trying to get the car to actually run because it's still stalling. I swapped out the O2 sensors, I swapped out the MAP sensor, I checked for vacuum leaks, and still it stalls, but only at idle. So today I swapped out the spark plugs, one ignition coil, and I checked on the IAC valve, which sounded like this. That noise means the part is working, sadly, so it's not the culprit, but I cleaned it out anyway and threw it back in. Then I ran into another problem. I go to test drive the car and one of the wheels won't move at all. I added spacers recently and I didn't shave the lug nuts down, so I shaved the lug nuts down on that wheel, and all the other wheels I did the old-fashioned way. And guess what? The car is still stalling at red lights, but let me know what you think about the headlights. The only way to get anything custom for me is by being cool. I used to do commissions for everybody. You could hire me, pay me $200, and I'd give you a custom shoe. But then I realized 3 things that made me stop that completely. 1, the 8 hours that I was spending on the shoe was not worth the $50 profit that I made. 2, I hate following other people's creative direction. I want to make what I want to make. And 3, people just suck. Either the price is too high, the design isn't right, the turnaround time isn't fast enough, there's always something to complain and nitpick about. So I stopped doing commissions for money, and now I only do them for people that I think are cool. And no, that doesn't just mean celebrities, it means people that do interesting things, people that give me interesting projects. Like these gloves, for instance. My buddy Sonny Edwards asked me to design him a pair for his upcoming fight. And not only is he just a chill, down-to-earth guy, he beats people up for money. What's cooler than that? So of course I jumped on the opportunity, and what's most exciting is this design might be recreated on his actual gloves that he wears squares in the fight. And if you couldn't tell, these were inspired by the moon rocks, which is what Sonny wanted, so of course they glow in the dark. Let me know what you think about these and if you want to see them in the fight. I finally made a pair of wearable Sonic shoes, and I'm not sure why it took me this long to figure out how. And before you scroll away thinking this is a promotion for the new movie, it's not. I'm not getting paid a single ring from Mr. Sonic because they did not answer my DMs. So if he's not getting paid to make this video, why else would a 25-year-old spend his time making Sonic shoes? Is he that weird? Yep, that along with the fact that my feed has been Sonic non-stop lately. Specifically the Sonic Adventure AI cat videos, Christopher King and Jack the Hedgehog. My goats, I hope this makes you proud. But anyway, it was pretty simple to make these shoes. All I did was color them correctly, so red and gray. Then I cut the sleeves off of one of my girlfriend's old sweaters and I glued those to the shoe to make those kind of ankle collar things that Sonic has. And to tie it all together, I got some belts from Target. I cut them up and painted them white, slid them through the slits that I made in the shoe earlier, and that's pretty much it. And I gotta say, I like these more than the originals because they're functional and they're comfortable because they're Kizos. And you can bet your ass that I'll be wearing these to the premiere of the Sonic movie, but let me know what you think about them. This has got to be my favorite thing that I've done to the Civic so far. It was time to take out the old ugly stock shifter and replace it with a brand new Acuity one. It's a pretty simple install and it's a lot simpler when you just remove the center console. I'm lazy, so I tried to install it without removing the center console, but it made life way easier to just get it out of the way. After I got the old shifter out, it was time to throw the new 3-way adjustable shifter in. It's only 3 bolts to mount it and 1 bolt to secure the long hard shaft. Pause! It was really an easy install. The hardest part was trying to remove the shifter cables from the OEM shifter, but that was it. Once I got those out, it was easy. I put all the trim pieces back where they were and I installed a new shift boot collar. I got a little shifter charm to go with it. I love that, as well as the big red knob, because who doesn't love a big red knob? Pause again! But this is why Acuity is the best. Look at the difference. This is stock. And this is Acuity. No play at all. Kind of like you. It looks amazing, it made the car way more fun to drive, and I love it. This sculpture is coming along suspiciously well. Now, I don't know if you're new here or not, but we don't have the best luck when it comes to literally anything. There's always a mini catastrophe within every project, but this one is just coming along swimmingly, which is scary. The idea was to take a pair of shoes from our next drop and cement them in a big concrete diamond. So we cut a diamond out of plywood to make the base and then used linoleum flooring as the walls of the mold because it's both stiff and flexible. The last mold we made, we used hot glue to seal everything, and that ended up leaking, so this time we used Gorilla Glue and gave it a full day to cure. So we came back the next day and started mixing the concrete, and yes, we're using our hands, just be happy we're using gloves this time. Oh, God! Rumor has it Zuki loves getting squirted on. Giggity. But we continued pouring the concrete, and for some reason, ChatGPT was extremely off in its calculations. I asked it how many bags we would need to fill this. It told me about 15. We only needed 3. We wanted to throw some rebar in here, so we used some broken pieces of cinder block to prevent it from sinking all the way to the bottom, and then threw some random pieces in, and I have no idea if we did it right. We're about halfway through with this project. Everything has gone perfectly, but there's still plenty of room to mess up, so keep your fingers crossed. From a strictly business perspective, this belt is the dumbest thing I've ever made. The return on investment is absolutely horrible. These stupid glass rhinestones cost me $200 alone. And this thing took me all day to make. It's rare I spend this much time on something, especially something this tedious. My ADHD brain much rather prefers to jump from task to task, spending no more than 20 minutes on one singular thing. But I could justify the time and the money because I thought this idea was sick and it was gonna make for a great video. However, I couldn't even monetize this video because the process was so boring it only made for a 45-second video. Side note, shout out to Mac Miller. However, not everything's about money. Sometimes you just make cool things for the sake of making cool things, and I love how this thing turned out. My only regret is I wish I used genuine Swarovskis, but let me know what you think about it. I'm on a mission to see if it's possible to build a cool car for under $5,000. And so far, things haven't been going the greatest, but here's everything I've done so far since we're about halfway done with this build. It all started when I bought this car off Facebook Marketplace for $2,500. I started with all the boring stuff, so I changed the oil, I gave it a new battery, a battery kill switch, O2 sensors, and a map sensor. That all ran me about $400. Then I noticed the sunroof was leaking, so I sealed that with silicone. That only cost me like $10. I got a new door because I broke the windows out of the other one, and a new fender. Those ran me about $350. After that, I got some wheel spacers and threw those on there. That only cost me like $70. I threw some new headlights in there. Those only ran me like $170, and they made the car look 10 times better. The map sensor and the O2 sensors didn't fix my stalling problem, so I thought swapping the spark plugs out would, and that didn't really help either. But the spark plugs in the ignition coil cost me about $100. So this is how she sits today, different colored door and all. I only have about $1,400 to do the suspension, the paint, and the exhaust, which is doable, but I gotta get this stalling problem under control or else it's gonna eat the whole budget. Let me know what you think so far though.